Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it's inevitable that life throws obstacles in your way, but it's how we deal with them that truly matters. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, and I certainly hope that you do, you're listening right now, you can subscribe to the podcast. You can find us over at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, basically wherever you find your podcasts. And plus, you can find every single one of our episodes archived over at our YouTube channel. And if you could like and subscribe to us there too, that'd be fantastic. You can find us on social media too, as the kids call it. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at either @InTheSeats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, and I say it a lot, but I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at InTheSeats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of television, film, video on demand, film festivals, basically anything we can throw at you, because we love talking about the moving image and we love it when you read about it, so please come on by. We got a fun one on this episode, boys and girls. We're looking into it's very realistic. It's a fun, but it's truthful as well. It's a film called A Bump Along the Way, which is available on most VOD platforms right now. It's an Irish Catholic story, and let's just say it's about an unwanted pregnancy. As a boozy 44-year-old single mother becomes pregnant from a one-night stand, and her teenage daughter, who is a little buttoned up, is horribly ashamed of it. And there's hilarity, but there's some honesty there too along the way. And it's an excellent film from director Shelley Love and written by Tess McGowan. But we had the distinct pleasure to sit down with star Bronagh Gallagher, who is absolutely fantastic in the film, who you may know from... she's done a few things. Like, she's done some small stuff in, like, big films like Star Wars, but also you may recognize her from film like The Commitments and some other great work that she's done as well. She is a fantastic actress, and we sat down over Zoom, as she figured out her iPad, and we talked about the movie and talked about career and life and just sort of the magic of the story. And it was a fun talk with Bronagh, I know, and I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I certainly hope that you do too. But enjoy our talk and enjoy the movie. But anyway, just to start off, congratulations on the film. Like, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I guess walk me through getting the part.
Well, my sister is the producer, and she was given the script by the NI Screen, and that was her first introduction to the first feature setup, which is going to be a project for first-time director, first-time writer, and first-time producer, writer, and director. Yeah, first-time writer, first-time director, first-time producer. So Louise loved Tess's and sent it to me to basically say, what do you think of this? So we both loved it. And that's I just read it really as a sort of, a little bit of a sounding board for Louise. And then as the weeks and the months went on, I ended up becoming Pamela. So that's kind of how it happened, So my sister's a producer, an independent producer, but she's been working in the BBC for many years. And then she went out on her own to basically to produce independent films in Northern Ireland. And this was her first solo project as a producer with executive producer Roma Downey, who's another Derry lady, and it went on to win award after award after award. So it's fantastic.
I mean, I think what really just struck me about the film was that it was honest, but it still managed to be funny, sort of inside the honesty, instead of trying to be sort of gaggy about the whole situation. Like, from your perspective, how important was it to sort of have a character and have a lead that could still generate some laughs, but was going through some very serious real world stuff?
I think if you can balance both those emotions in a film, then I think you have got something for the audience to grasp onto. I think when I read the script initially, I said to Louise, you really need to have the audience care about these characters, both characters. I think in any great film, there's almost a young lead or an innocence to a lead, then the audience can grasp it because they want to sort of protect them. They sort of either dislike them or they want to sort of mind them and parent them. So basically, they have, very human sides to them. They have very funny sides to them, obviously. So I think the audience had enough gaps on there to just want to, hold them. And I think myself and Lola had just really great characters to embrace and just make them as real as we could. So it was important to both of us, the writer, the director, the two actors, and Louise, the producer, that the piece ultimately had a lot of heart, and just to keep the humor. It never needed to be vulgar or graphic or anything. It needed to just be representative of what these women were going through, and our job was to tell the story. And I think that's what we did.
Did you get a lot of time with Lola? Because I'm such a big fan of hers, and you guys have such a great dynamic together going back and
She's
forth. It feels
fantastic.
effortless.
Yeah, we did. We rehearsed for a week beforehand. So we workshopped the script and we had a good time to really, get the sort of realness of the two characters on the table and how they would work. And, so Lola's obviously playing, a good few years older than she is, but she has a great sort of childlike quality to her. So she's really, really adaptable in that sense. But no, she was fantastic. And we really did. We just got under the skin of it, and I think the dynamic just worked really well. People seem to just really, really embrace it.
No, it works. It works like a charm. I mean, you're both the linchpin for the film, and I loved it. And I mean,
Thank you.
I'm kind of curious when you're working in the moment and you're sort of going back and forth, do you know when you have it? Like, do you know when the material's clicking, or is it just a question of you have to wait to see the final product? Because I'm always curious about that, because I can imagine it varies
Good
from project to
question.
project.
That's a really good question, David. That's not one I've been asked before. I think you do feel it on, you're obviously, as an actor, you're in a very technical ensemble, but there obviously comes to a point once the sort of, you hand it over to the actors, and obviously you've so many people depending on, the piece, but usually, anything to, 5 or 6 people in a room to maybe, 60 people in a room, depending on the stage, whatever you're filming in. So, it can be obviously a hell of a lot more, but, I think there becomes a moment when the actors know if the concentration is there, the timing is there, you just feel the sort of support, this, it's palpable. I always think in a room when you've got, dependent again on the material that you're working with, you really know yourself if you've got it, and you just hope that they don't say, oh, we have to go again, or we have a sound issue or something, so yeah, you kind of tend to know yourself, and you just hope that, for the actors that it's, feels right, and that the camera and, ultimately sound can be recorrected afterwards, but the camera needs to make sure that there's no glitches. And sometimes you do know you've done a better take, but there's a mistake or an issue with the camera, so they don't use it.
Now, I mean, going through your credits list, you've always had a very sort of varied sort of list of credits, because I mean, well, I'm sure a lot of people will still pull you from something like Commitments. For me, I think I remember you most from Grabbers for some reason. I don't know why, but it's like I'm kind of curious. You sort of on the street, are there roles that people sort of remember you from, or does it vary from time to time?
It varies. I mean, obviously the big sort of films that I've been on, people would remember me from those, but then I would have a huge sort of love of theatre, and I would have spent, 30 years in the British mainstream theatre and international theatre as well. I've done a lot of great productions, and I'm very very honored to have been involved in the ones that have been in. So people would remember you from those as well. But I do a lot of TV too. So it depends. People can remember you from Poirot to, as you say, Grabbers, if that's their sort of sci-fi, penchant. And obviously Commitments, Pulp Fiction, things like that are kind of iconic kind of films, where I always slightly huddle away because I'm sort of, of tiny parts in these. Well, not the Commitments, but certainly Pulp Fiction and Star Wars and stuff. And you always go, oh, yeah, that was me. But you always feel like, I was only in it a wee tiny bit. But, yeah, it depends. It could be anything. It could be, one thing that you even kind of forgot you've been in, and people go, oh, yeah. So it just depends, I think I've been around like an old horse, been around the block a bit now.
You've always managed to sort of, take a small job, take a big job, take a small job, and sort of vary it up. And I'm kind of curious, is that by design, or is that just timing, fortuitousness? Like, how do you sort of strike a balance between the sort of the one for them and the one for you kind of thing?
Well, I mean, obviously it depends on how much you've been working, and if you're
Right.
financially in a position where you can just not work for a while, it's fantastic. Not always actors are in that position. I've certainly been in both. And to me, though, it always comes down to the heart. And I really find it hard to engage in material if my heart doesn't feel, you know, seduced kind of by it, you know, or that all can get into that. Because I think because of where I come from in Derry, I do have a born sense of injustice and a born sense of, you know, getting the truth out and getting the you know, the real heart and soul. And if there's a platform to bring some sort of truth or justice to the piece, and that's what usually attracts me to a project. But I've done stuff too, you know, just comedy and sort of crazy stuff as well, which is great crack. So it just depends, you know. But I mean, I do always try and make sure that it's something that I know I can bring my heart to.
Well, and this really definitely has heart in it. And I mean, it's one of those
Yeah.
things where, I mean, I'm a straight white guy in Canada. Like, I don't necessarily understand sort of, you know, how women can feel in Ireland, but you still get that, you get that here. And I mean, it's one of the
I
kind of things where you can understand the sort of the shittiness of the situation, if that makes
oh
sort of
I
any kind of sense.
absolutely. I mean, the reaction that we had, literally every film screening that we had, every premiere, every audience member that stayed behind afterwards, that subject came up. Infertility, you know, menopausal issues, women struggling all their life, you know, with menstrual issues. And it was really kind of, you know, it was really freeing and empowering for so many of us to be able to talk about these things that, you know, for so many years people felt embarrassed about talking about. We didn't have the proper support or vocabulary to talk about it, and how traumatic and helpless it can be for the men as well. And then sometimes, you know, they work it out that it's not the woman that's infertile, it's the man that's infertile, you know. So these issues that were huge for audience reaction, it was a major part of our discussions, you know. So really exciting to have those conversations with can you still hear me?
I can still hear you fine. Yeah.
Oh, great. It just went all black there. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, but
No worries.
strange.
No
It went
worries.
black. Um,
You're back.
there you are. Oh, great. No, it was really interesting to just get the reactions. And I do feel it was a subject that people really wanted to talk more about, and they really wanted to, you know, just, I suppose, share their stories about. You know, it was very moving when we went to certain, especially actually in Toronto. We had a huge reaction in Toronto from it. That TIFF was great.
And it wasn't being heavy-handed either. It really had this sort of very sort of earnest and very open sense to it all, which I really think
Yeah.
is sort of the magic of the film.
I think exactly that. You know, we felt that along the way. And, you know, again, I say to all good ensemble groups, and with, you know, if something's well boned and it's well written, the performances can fill in where it's needed to tell the story. But also never underestimate the intelligence of an audience, especially if somebody's going to go and say, you know, because people, they're only going to see real life. That's all we're ever going to represent. That's all we're ever going to, you know, hopefully replicate, you know, and reenact. So, you know, they're going to get it, you know, and that's why cinema is so universal, because people just go, oh yeah, you know, that's me, or that's, you know, they can understand it. So yeah, it's very interesting.
No,
It's a very
it's
exciting
the
time.
stories about real life that really draw people in. And I'm kind of curious. This is a silly question, but I always like to ask it. Thinking back in your life, like, was there a movie or a play or sort of a piece of work that you can pinpoint as the moment in your life and be like, you know what? I want to do this. I want to be in this business.
I mean, I suppose as a very young kid, you know, I was watching Bugsy Malone and The Wizard of Oz, you know, and the movies of that time. And I just loved kids, especially the Bugsy Malone. When you seen kids acting, you know, that was always fantastic and exciting. And I was very young and always at sort of singing and dancing and dramas and stuff. But I think it was probably Breed Brennan, who's a fantastic Irish actress who was in a wonderful piece called The Price, which is about three IRA people. I think it was Stephen Ray, Breed, and maybe I was going to say Brian Cox, but I might be getting that mixed up with something else. But it definitely was Breed and Stephen, and it was a BBC drama about these three IRA people. And I remember just her performance, and I don't even know if I was conscious of what the subject was. I was probably just so young, but I just remember being blown away by the danger that she created in her character. And it was the first time I really recognized, oh, she's acting that, you know. And I just remember her performance being so strong. And she's still one of my favorite actresses, you know. She's an extraordinary performer, very, very, very unique actor.
Fantastic. Now, I'm curious, and I mean, this is a bit of a loaded question, but I mean, again, I'm always kind of fascinated by it because I always love talking to people who can have a musical background or have a theater background, and it always seems when I talk to them, they have real sustainability when it comes to working in television and working in film. And I'm kind of curious from your perspective, what is it about have being sort of multidimensional that allows you to sort of sustain and keep getting work, especially on screen?
Well, I've got really good agents. So that's definitely one, one element of it. They're very brilliant, and they really understand and they really get it. But I mean, I suppose, I think I've just been, I've been lucky enough to do shows where you're getting to expose that versatility, I suppose, and singing. We did the Bob Dylan musical in the West End a few years ago. Conor McPherson's brilliant play, The Girl from the North Country. So, you're getting on stage, you're singing. I played drums, so Conor incorporated that into the show as well. So this character, she was I sort of based her on a Barbara Stanwyck kind of collapsed starlet during the Depression in America. And, but you get to create these wonderful characters with these wonderful writers and directors. And then, you get to bring in your own sort of musical talent. So that was a great experience and a great platform for work. I kind of worked solidly for a couple of years after that, So just as in one job can spark ideas in other people's heads and say, oh, I haven't seen her in a while or whatever. So I think it's just choosing well and being brave and just trying to do your best job and just, working really hard.
Well, and I mean, it really does. I mean, just goes to the old expression about the cream rising to the top. Because I mean, I think A Bump Along the Way is that kind of movie. Because I mean, it's a couple of years old, but it's getting out there.
Yeah.
People are still talking about it, and especially given the state of the world now, we're all watching stuff a little bit more, and it's getting more and more of an audience. It's not getting lost in the noise.
No, I mean, even this year, last year, obviously, when everything kicked in, we were due to go to, Luxembourg. We were going to go to Boston. We had just come back from Santa Barbara Film Festival. We opened the festival there. We'd been at TIFF. We won Galway. We won in London. We were all over, and the festivals were just lining up and lining up and lining up. So, obviously, we couldn't go anywhere. But I mean, there's such a love for the film. We just couldn't believe it, really. And this is like another second little honeymoon for it now in Ontario, so it's wonderful. Yeah, it's great.
Well, you know what? Thank you for the work and thank you for the time and congratulations again on the film. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, David. Lovely to talk to you. Great questions. You raised the game there.
I try.
Oh, you did. Honestly, that was great because you get all the same stuff again. But that was really good. I've never been asked that before, Dino. So I'm going to say that you need to listen to David's podcast.
I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna leave it in. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, lovely to speak to you.
Thanks again for the time.
All right, take care. Bye. Thank you. Ciao.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.